Hello everyone, welcome to the project News app. Now let us see the problem statement of this project. The news aggregator algorithm acts as an one-stop destination for various categories of interesting news like sports, national news, science, etc. collected from various news circulation systems. Given the category of news the user likes to surf through an interactive interface, this algorithm displays the latest news for the category within seconds. Now let us see some applications and scenarios. The uses of this algorithm are many. In fact, the uses are a lot of versatile. For a common reader, this algorithm is a single stop for all exciting news. For an aspiring businessman who wishes to run a comparison on advertising capabilities of different news companies, there is no better place than one like this. This algorithm, which unfolds how different news systems portray a single incident, facilitating comparison. For a keen follower of news who wants to get updated on latest news, this news system is just what he or she might be looking for. This algorithm could pretty much make up the day for many in many ways. Now let us see the tech stack involved in this project. Starts from using Django, Python and some news APIs. Now let us see some sample input and output of this application, starting from wide variety of news categories such as world, business, tech, sports, health and science. And now let me classify the application, which contains three options. One is you can see the headlines of the news or also the description of the news, and if you want to read the whole article you can also click on the respective headlines to redirect to its home page where the whole article is located. And let us wrap up and thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to the project News app. So let us start this project by dividing into two stages. And the first stage we will set up the Django and later we will write the code. So let's get started by installing Django in our system. So to install Django in our system we need to write pip install Django. And as I have installed before, it says requirement already satisfied. So but in your case it will install all required modules. Now let us write the command Django admin start project. So what start project does is basically it creates a project folder in the news app directory. So we'll name it as news app. Now I'll show you our directory. See, initially our file name is news app, and in that by using start project it created another subfolder of it there and some files included with it. So manage.py helps us to run the server. And before going in detail, let us understand the process that we are going to follow. Now let us discuss about after creating a Django project, what is next. So we should create an app of the project. So what actually is, we created an project. So a project contains some subparts of apps. So if you imagine a travel website, if you visit for example a make my trip website, you will have many sections like flight booking, train booking, taxi services, many. So make my trip is an project and the sub ones are the applications. So news app is a project and the sub applications are the sub parts of the project. Now I'll explain you some files installed with the news app with the project. Now you can see that settings.py, urls.py, vsgi.py and manage.py. So basically vsgi.py is used while you are deploying in the production. So basically we'll have two parts. One is production and one is local host. Production means basically we'll be having a server and it will be a new database and everything. But whereas in local host we will be running with our local host. And next we'll have urls.py. We'll talk about this later after creating a sub app. And settings.py we is used to change settings while we add a new app to it. We need to add to this directory, I mean in this array. So in this installed apps array we need to add if you are adding any new app to the project, main project. Now file if we create and start project, we can also run the server using localhost. Django also provides us with a light framework which helps to run the server. So let us write Python. Now before that, you can see that news app is the folder name and the project name is also news app. So let us go inside the project, and now you can see that we are inside the news app. Let us run the server. So to run server we will be using Python manage.py run server. So basically what happens here is it will be hosting our project in our local server. You can see that I'll show you. Yeah, see it said Django version is 2.1.3 and it is been deployed in this website. I mean it is our local host. Now you can see that it said Django and this is our website name, I mean the local host. So we are done with the local host deployment. Now let us add the sub application for the main project. Now to close the server we should just click Ctrl C. Now you can see that the local server has been closed. Now let us go from the news app directory to the news app folder. Now let us create the start app in the project of start project. Now let us write Django admin start app and we'll name it as news. Now you can see that a folder named news has been created, and now our goal is to news app will be hosting the news sub app. So we should link the news app and the news. So to link that we will be using settings.py here. So to be connected with the both apps, we should go to the line 33 and add news in the installed apps, and this helps us to connect the news and the news app. Now let us clear. Now let us write some basic code in the views.py of the news folder. So news folder remember as the subfolder of the project and news app is the main. Now in the views.py is where we are going to write our Python code as the backend to the website at the top. So before writing the code, let's see about Django. So basically Django follows MVT architecture, that is models, views and templates. So what actually happens is whenever user tries to fetch data, such as a website like LinkedIn, he or she will click the refresh button. So what Django does is, it sends a request to URLs, so URLs maps the request to the views and search for a function in views.py. And views will use the models and templates to get the data and show the feed for the user. So this is known as a triangular relationship between models, views and templates. This is known as MVT. In templates, we will be using the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but also a new one called DTL, that is known as Django Template Language. So you can also write your Python logics inside the HTML files too. Now let us see the workflow of MVT in our project. Whenever user tries to fetch data of a particular news category, he sends a request. Then URL finds a particular function in the views.py, and then views.py will fetch the data and show the data in the templates. Now We know that Django follows MVT and URLs helps us to map the function in the views.py. Let us write a code where when user tries to fetch the data or reload the page, the heading will be shown as hello world. So let us write a small code for that, and first start importing the request module. And pip install request helps when request is getting an error. If you are getting any error while running this, pip install request. See that as I've installed before, there are no errors, but you can see that if you can see that if you are not installed, this will be installed in your laptop, your system. Now let us write a function def index it as request, and if user tries to set any give any request, index will take as a parameter, and let us return. Now we'll be using command called render. Render is any used to print the text or render anything in a website. So here we'll send parameter, and now we'll be creating a templates folder where index.html will be located. Now as we created views.py, now let us map in the urls.py. So to map it, we should first import views.py in the urls.py. To do that, from news is a folder which contains views.py. So now let us write from news import views. So if you write this, all the contents available here will be easily accessed in the urls.py. So no need to go every time to views.py when user tries to fetch any data. Now let us write a function, I mean an array, where it contains all the functions in the views.py. Let us write urls patterns equals to array path of admin dot site dot u. After this, let us include path of, let us write views dot index. So views dot index is that in the views.py it will map to index function, and you can name it any function. Let us write name equals to fetch any data. We need to name it because while we are dealing with many functions, the parameter name will help us. If user tries to send any data through index.html but the name is different, it will try to doesn't send a request to the back to the user. Now let us create a folder inside the news function, I mean inside the news folder. Let us create a template folder, and you can see that a templates folder has been created. We'll create an index.html. You can see that an index.html file has been created. If you're writing in Visual Studio, write explanatory mark and shift enter. You can see an auto-generated code here. Now let us rename this title and keep it as news. By using an h1 tag, we'll just write some text as hello world. Now let us host the server in our local host. As I told you before, to run the server, we should just write a command called python man .py run server. So this will help us to run the server in the local host. Now it is showing that server is running in this local host. Now let us open this and see what is the output. See, it's working. Now if you see the local host server, it's showing hello as we wrote in the views.py. See, as I wrote in the views.py to fetch the data and show in the index.html. So in the index.html, we wrote hello world. So it worked. Now let us write the logic of views.py. Now basically we will be using an API to fetch different types of news. So the API is hosted by Google News API. So Google News API has a great collection of news which has sports, national news, international news, mo every topic every major topic has been covered in the API and it's for free. Now let us write the code for the how to fetch the data and show in the index.html in the same manner how we did the hello world. Now let us write the code for fetching news from gnews client A. So the first thing is to install the module, that is pip install gnews client, and the next is let us import the module. Let us run this. And now comes the part where we are going to send request to the gnews client API. So it provides a syntax called gnews client. So basically .news client helps us to give some parameters such as language, location, topic, use open graph, max results. So language, as it specifies, it just gives a language like English, Spanish, Hindi, any languages, and in location the same. And the topic means we have a vast topics, like let us print what are the topics, languages, locations available individually. Let us print that, and before that let us see what is use open graph and max result. Basically use open graph is where you can get the image and the description of a news. So use open graph is a tool where you can fetch, scrap the images of a news of a particular website. So if we keep as true, you'll get the images with the URLs provided, and the max results is basically to get how many queries at a single request. So let us set the number to 3 for now. Now as I said you, let us see the topics, locations and languages available in this API. Now you can see that in the topics we have top stories, world, nation, business, technology, entertainment, sports, science, and health. So I think these topics may cover almost all the different categories of news. And in the language, a great variety of collection is there, like English, Indonesian, German, Spanish, French, and Hindi. And same as in the location, it covers most of the locations. And now let us see some more details about this API. So the first thing is we'll just write news.getConfig. Basically to get that get config helps us to see what are the requests that have been sent as an query to the API. You can see that we have sent the language parameter as English, location as India, and topic as sport. So it will be helpful when we want to verify what are the parameters which you have sent to the API. Now let us see what are the keys. Before that, let us see the what is the output of this. Now let us print news dot get news. So get news is an output where you are going to get a whole summary of 3 results. Let us see what is the output. Let us see in a horizontal manner. So these are the results which we got as an output. Now you can see that it is in a form of array and an array with a dictionary. So dictionary is a key and value pair. So dictionary have many unique keys and different values. So basically the keys should be unique, but whereas values can be same and different also. You can see that description also has none and image also none, has none value. So as stated, values can be same or different. Now let us see, examine in detail what is happening in the output, like what are we getting as an output. So to get that, let us print the keys. Simple, right? If you print the keys, you'll also get the what are the outputs that we got, only the names, not all the information that we need. You can see that the information which we got is URL, site name, title, description, image width and height, link and media. So the important things which we will be using are URL, title, description and image and link. So the reason is, when when we will be using href in the HTML, we will show the title and we can redirect by using the URL as an href. So let us do this in the template section when we are doing the coding for that. Now let us still examine what is happening in the output. Now, as you have seen, there are some null values in the output, like description is none, image is none. So what if the output is none, and how are we going to deal with that? So this is a bit difficult, but let us make it easy by writing a small code. By It's just like we are going to make it constant values whenever we encounter a null value in the output. So as simple as this. So for I in DIC means DIC holds the output. So for I of URL, so as I told you, we can access value by using key. So the key name is URL, title, description and image. These four are the important ones which when we are going to deal with the template section. And as stated, link is also an important thing, but for sure link will not be null in every time. So you can see that, let us make all the null values to default images and default descriptions. If you see, for URL I just gave the Google News link, so whenever if user encounters a null, he can just click on that and it will redirect to the Google News top stories. And later what we have done for title is, we have just kept a statement known as latest news. So it's just a standard text which we can show to the user. And for description, as we can't provide a wrong description, we'll just show as empty text. And for the image, we'll just show a standard images which usually news channels do. I mean, like whenever you say flash news, you can see a titles, right? I've just copied a title, a URL and I've pasted here. Now as we have covered the topic, I mean, when the null encounters, we can store that. Now let us see, but who wants to get a null values? So what we'll do is, we'll increase the chance of getting less null values by increasing the max results. See, basically, if you are giving 3 as an input, you are getting around 1 as an null value. So if you increase your chances, there is a probability that you will get no null value in the output, and in that case we'll write a code for it. So for that, we'll write, for I in DIC, we'll just write the inverse of the above one. So basically here we told I of URL is equal to none, and now here we're going to say not equal to none. So we're going to see, whenever this is whenever this is not none, we are going to append in a array. So before that, we'll install as an array and append the outputs of which are not null, and let us print them. First let us run this. See, there is no null value in the whole output. So I have like you user may encounter two things. One is when there is a null, we will be displaying as an constant image, and our probability is more that there are no null values. So as a whole, let us write a function which can describe all the context. Now let us write a function which can classify the nulls and without nulls, and append in an array which doesn't contain any null values. So basically we have added both the codes in one function, and it can work by passing a single variable. So basically at the first stage we will be appending in an array which, if the array if greater than 9, we will be returning that as an output. In the worst case, we will return as the standard images by replacing the context. So this is the function. Now what is the variable that we are passing here? So as I told you before, our newspaper is going to have all the topics which this API provides. Now let us see again what are the topics which this API provides. Top stories, world, nation, business, technology, and this a list of tops. I mean all the elements in this array will be passed as an input to this function. So according to each case, it will result as an output, and this output is going to be displayed in the Django website. So this is a structure that we are going to follow while we coding the Django project. Now let us write the function graph which we declared before, and by using that function, let us show the output in the index.html as an output screen by adding few buttons to navigate through different topics of the GNews client API. So let's start by writing the code for the index.html by adding the function index in our views.py. So initially we'll be rendering the output in the index.html. So let us write the code. So we'll declare a variable called new, and we'll use the scrap function which we wrote. The basic functionality of the scrap is we need to pass the topic which we want to scrap the details. So that's the reason in the topic area we wrote b. B is a variable which helps us to scrap the particular topic in the list of topics which we have discussed before, like world news, national news, like. As of now, in the index.html on the landing page, we'll just give world as an input, and let us return here. We'll be using render as request. We'll show the output in index.html. We'll pass the parameter as, and as we created a new variable. This as a string, but as news is a variable that holds the output, let us pass the same variable as base. So now here we are done with the writing the function. Before we have also added the URL of the respective function. Now let us write the code for the index.html. So basically our aim is to create some placeholders where the output which have been fetched before will be displayed on this landing page. So basically we need to create a multiple columns with multiple rows. So to create rows and columns, we will be using this div class which helps us to create four columns with multiple rows. So first let us write this class and create a column named col, and at each row we'll call as cards. So after this, the most important thing that we are going to do is we will be using DTL, that is known as Django template language. So we can use the Python language which we have used before inside the HTML file also. So to do that, let us write the code. So as I told you before, we will be passing the output as a news variable. So in the news variable, we will be getting an output as a dictionary. So to access the dictionary, we need to write a code where the variable and the index name and the item which we want to show. So let us do for 0th position item. So in the, as I told you before, in the dictionary we will be having more than 9 items. So news.0 will return you the first item in the whole dictionary, and in that we only want to have a key variable known as image. So If you write this, you'll get the image URL, and as image src works, where you give an image URL, it can display as an output. So after that, as we need an href where user wants to redirect to the news page which it has been scrapped. So let us write the same. News dot zero is basically the first element, and in that we need the URL parts, and the same proceeds for the title and the description. So this is the like the architecture that we are going to follow while creating the website. Now let us create multiple rows in the columns that we have created below. So this is the column, and we are going to create rows in that. So let us copy the same code, because the outer class acts as an design, so we need to insert elements in that column and rows. So let us paste the same code here 3 times. So but at the first time we need to only access the 0th position item, but here we need to access the first position item. So basically first position means in the dictionary we'll have 9 elements. So at the first box we will be displaying the 0th position dictionary, and in the second we'll be displaying the first position dictionary. Changes also to 1, and here it should be 2. So this DTL helps, like, makes us more comfortable to write the code for the backend of the HTML file. So now let us run this code. Python.py run servers. If you run this command, it will create a local host server for us to host our application. So click on this. You can see that it hosted our website at this local host. Now you can see the output. It created 3 columns in the first row. So this is how you get the columns and rows as an output when you create the index.html by using the div class row and column. Now let me explain you what is happening in detail by using the Colab notebook which we have created before. Now you can see that what I wrote is news.1.image and news.1.url. So what basically happens is, let us imagine this is the output which we got, and we will be passing this whole output to the HTML file. Now as we created multiple columns, we will be saying that in the first column we need the output of the first dictionary. So basically we'll be passing an array with the multiple dictionaries. This is an array and which contains, this is first dictionary, this is second dictionary. So in the arrays we'll start index by position 0. So let us imagine this is the first position 0, and this is the first second position, like that. Now if you see that, let us see what is happening. If you see the second column, it told news.2.image. So basically this is the second position in the array. If you say news.2.image, it is going to see the news variable. Dot 2 means index 2 position which has this content. Dot image means you'll be accessing this image key, and you can get the, if you access the key of the dictionary, you can also get the value of it. So we will be passing this value as an source to the image which we have created in the HTML. You know, see, news.2.image acts as a source to the image. So in this case, this is the image. Now let us see what is happening in the title and the description. Now you can again see in the same index position, there is a description and there is a title name. So if you see for a title, if you want to access that particular title, you need to write again news.index2.title. So if you access the title, you can also get the output. And we are just doing the accessing the key pair, and we are output as a value to the index.html by using DTL language. So this made us code more comfortable so that by using normal Python language we can write the code for the index.html. Now let us write the code for the buttons. So let us, as we have the more vast information about all the topics like sports, entertainment, nation, let us create few buttons which redirects the top 5 news or top 8 news regarding the particular topic, particular category that we are going to make. So let us create some buttons and add to this news.html in the same manner we have done for this world news. Here this is the world news, that is the reason you got the world news. Change the parameter to sports, you'll get the sports news here. Let us try with the sports news and see what is happening. Now if you want to close the server, you should just type Ctrl C, go to the views.py and change the scrap world to sports, and let us run the server again. Now you can see that the runner start. The server got started. Now let us see the output. We need to refresh the page. Now you can see that you got the top news feed about sports, as it's cricket, badminton, like that. So this is how you create the HTML file and add the parameters to the backend in the Django and pass the output in the HTML. Now let us create some buttons and do the same as well as. Now let us create a button which helps us to change the particular topic of a news which we are going to show in the news feed. So whenever user tries to click on the button, it sends a request to urls.py, and then urls.py maps the respective function to views.py. So first let us create a button in the HTML file. So to create a button, we need to use a form, because the form we will be saying while sending a request, we need to note the function which we are going to send in the urls.py. So basically we'll create a form, and in the form we are going to say that add one. So we will be creating a function called add one, and we are going to also add this function in the urls.py. And another thing note should be noted is method is post. So basically we are going to use post method to send a request and get the request. So this is the form. In the form we need to create a button which holds the value as world. So what happens is whenever user tries to click this button in the HTML file, it sends the world as an parameter to the request, and then it proceeds to at the backend. So, and the important thing that to be noted is again is CRS token. So whenever we are trying to send some data through post, it needs to be authenticated. So we'll be asking a token which helps us to bypass the security, so that it is an authenticated token. So whenever the user tries to send a request, it doesn't stop due to the firewall gates. So this is important to create whenever we create a button and a form. Now that we have created a button here, let us create a same function name inside the views.py. This is that. So you can see that in the def add one I wrote the same. If you got the request, and you need to go to the else statement and show that news equal to scrap of, let us create a button name as sports. Let us also rename in the index.html file and name it as sports, and value also to be changed as. So what happens here is whenever user tries to click on the button quotes, it asks the form to action the add one function. So add one triggers, and in the add one we are going to scrap the details of sports, and we are going to pass the output in the news variable, and the same thing happens before all. Now let us map the, see, if the function is present in the add one in the views.py, it should be also present in the urls.py. we will be including the same function inside the urls.py so that next time when the request arise, it automatically maps to the views. We will be writing add one slash, this time view start add one, name is equal. Now we have created a button, but this time to show the output we'll create a same HTML file and we'll make it another HTML called as index1.html. So go to the template section, add a file called index.html, because we will be adding more than 5 buttons, so it becomes mess when we show the outputs in the same screen. So we will be redirecting to another HTML template. So no need to change anything, we'll be copying the same code in the index.html. So but rather when we are rendering the output, we need to change index1.html here, so as I change it before. So let us run the output, see what is coming in the website. So to run that, we need to type python manage .py. So you can see that it created a localhost server. Now let us see the output. So that you can able to see that a new button sports has been created. So let us hit the sports button, and what the reason we got the world news here is because you see our index.html, we are scrapping the world news and showing as the output as the top world news. So whenever user tries to click on the the sports button, it is going to get the sports news because of we have passed available as sports here. Let us see the output. Now you can see in the URL it got changed. Before it's our local host now, but it is add one slash. So it successfully worked, and now you can see that it showed our sports news. So you can make multiple buttons and map to different functions in the views.py and show as an output. So let us make another 3 to 4 buttons and let us see how is it working. So what basically I've done again is we had just created buttons and mapping into different index.htmls, but there will be only one index.html where it shows the button, and in the others we will only going to show the output, and we'll keep a back button so that whenever user finishes after finishing the field which we have posted, he can return back and select any other option. So before that, let us start creating some more buttons and adding few more functionalities to the website. So to add some more buttons, we need to add more functions. So basically we'll create some 3 buttons, like now we'll rename add one to add two, like add one is present and now we'll be creating add two, but the only change will be here is we are going to change the sports name to another category. Let us see like what are the categories again available now. You can see that in the Colab notebook which we have created, topics available are top stories, world, nation, business, technology. Let us see technology, entertainment, and just copy this and let us paste one by one in the in the views.py. First, let us see technology, entertainment. Let's create another button so that we can also cover the sign. So for creating another button, we need to copy the function. Just rename this to add 3. Right here, rename it to add 4, but this time we should write a sign. rename enter to sign. Now we are done with adding the functions in the views.py. Now the only thing left is we need to map in the both urls.py, and to show the user what are the available options we need to add in the index.html as theme. So let us copy the first line which we have added, add one, and let us paste it. The function available we have created until add 4, add 3, add 2, add. Let's rename to the. So we should also change the path's name, so whenever you can see the URLs, it has been modeled in a way that our local host slash add one or add two, like that. You can rename these functions as it's your for you, but whenever you rename a function, make sure you also rename in the urls.py. We are done with also renaming the buttons in urls.py. The only thing left is we need to map in the index.html. So to do that, so copy the same form. This time change the sports to world. Here, what is the second function created? Second function which we have created is technology. Just copy and also see the function which you need to call. If you map it wrong, you'll get the output but in a different way. So in add 2 it is technology. Now let us rename add one which we have copied before and make it to add 2. Let's rename the sports by tech. It is but let us rename 2 to add 3. There's the button use dot entertainment. So let us technology to entertain. Only one button left and the output. Again rename it to add signs it here. Now let us see the output after running the python h.py runs python started. Now you can see that it has created 4 buttons. Now let us test one of the button and on technology and let us see the output. Now you can see that it gave us output of technology related news. So it gave Samsung S21, like that. I think you have understood now how to create buttons and make it functional. Now we'll keep, as you can see that it is index1.html. We didn't update it, so there is only sports button. So next time we'll update the sports button to back button, where whenever user finishes the reading the present field, he clicks the button, he'll go back to the previous field and he can select any other one. Now let us click enter time. Now you can see that it gave news related to entertainment. Now let us add all the buttons and let us see the output. And meanwhile we'll change the index1.html button to back menu. Let us write, and to redirect the user to the the previous button, we need to use href, right? href equals to, you just need to write dash. Let me update the all buttons and video. As we are done with all the available topics in the Genius Client API, I have added all the functions in both views and urls.py. Let me walk you through the code and let us see the changes that I have made. So in the urls.py, I have added all the functions which has been created in the views.py. And in the views.py, you can see that in the add function I've created for the add one, it will be world, and two it will be news regarding nation, business, technology, entertainment, sports, science. So these 8 functions acts as an buttons for the index.html that we have created. So basically we have created 8 forms, and at each 8 forms we will be redirecting to 8 different functions. If you see in the case of world, it will be redirecting into add 1, and for nation it will redirect to add 2. So what happens here is whenever you click the button on nation, it searches add 2 slash in the urls.py here. And what happens here is an add2 will be there in views.2, and it will be going to add2, and it will perform the necessary options in the add2, and it will print, it will scrap for the nation news, it will pass as a parameter for the index.html, and that is going to act as an index1.html for a particular button. So you can see that now I've increased the number of columns and number of rows as well as. So you can see that I have first added five columns in the first row, and later I've added 6 columns in the second row. Let me show you the output in the Chrome after running the server. Before that, let us see what are the changes in the index one. So I've just added a menu button where if user tries to click on that, it is going to redirect to the previous website. So that is the main website or the landing web. And the same code proceeds here as 3 rows with 5 columns. So let us run the code and let us see the output. I can see that, as I told you, I've created in the first row 4 columns and in the second row 5 columns. So these are the changes which regarding the designing of the index.html, and you can see that newly 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 total 8 buttons are available. Now let us click one of the button like signs. Now what happens is whenever you click the button signs, it searches for add 7 in our index.h in the urls.py, and from the urls.py it goes to views.py. Now whenever you hit this button, what happens actually is it scraps the function called scrap, and it passes the parameter signs as an input for it. Now let us see the output. You can see that in the output it showed add 7 in the URL which has been passed, so which has been concatenated to the present URL, and this is the output for that. And I have created a menu button. Whenever user clicks it, it goes to the back, the main menu website. This is regarding the project. Now let us try to deploy so that in a cloud, in a local, not in a local site, we will be deploying this website in a global version where you can access by anywhere. So we will be using Python Anywhere website to deploy our website. So let us start the steps one by one. So you can see this is the whole website that we have done, which it has, so in the first column it has, in the first row it has 4 columns, the second it has 5. So regarding how many null values, if it is having more null values, it shows only the top 4, or else whole the field will be filled. So now let us jump to the deployment of this application. Now let us deploy our application. So first zip your directory where you created your Django project and create your account in this Python Anywhere website. So after creating the account, you will be seeing a pop-up stating the tour. So end tour, and now let us start. First go to the consoles option, and You can see a option called others and bash MySQL and everything. Click on bash and you can see a black screen, that is the bash console. Now parallelly see the deployment instructions given by Python Anywhere. So we will be creating a virtual environment for a project to deploy in the Python Anywhere website. So paste this command, and before that let us name our virtual environment as test, and our Python version is 3.7. So it will create a test environment in the bash console of Python 3.7. After that you need to install Django. Now that we have created a test environment, let us install pip install Django. So it will install Django in the test environment called test. Now after that let us install GNews Client API. So it's still installing Django. It depends on your internet condition. Now we are done with installing Django. Let us install GNews API client. So whenever Python Envir is hosting our application, we need to install all the modules that have been installed in our local machine. So after installing GNews client, let us go to the files option. So in the files, you need to upload your file, which I told you to zip before. So to do that, you can see that I have uploaded the news app.zip. Now again go to the bash console to unzip the folder which we have given. To unzip, just type unzip space the file name. So it will unzip the folder. Now again go to the files. So now let us go to the web. Now as we are creating a Django app, and click on the add new web app and click on next and click on manual configuration, and as our version Python version is 3.7, click on this and later next. Now it will create a virtual environment for us to deploy our application. Now go to VSGI configuration file in the code that's in the code. Now click on this. Now remove what is given. Remove this and go to the instruction. Paste this, and the only change here is to change your username. In my case, it is feed me up. And now the important thing is, while after changing this, you need to also keep your directory name. So in our case it is news app, and make sure you have the correct name or else the deployment will stop. So again rename the my site and rename it to news app and click save and go back to the web. Now you can see that let us go to the virtual env and click on that, and as we created a test environment, right click, I mean right test, and it automatically identifies whether a test environment is created. If not, you should again create. Now we are done with the first stage. Now let us reload this feed me up.python anywhere, and whenever you make any changes in the website, you need to reload this. So if you see this, we get any error, that is you can see that it showed disallowed host. So this says that our Python application is working. Now there is only one change. Now go to the news app in the files, again go to news app. Now go to the settings.py. Now as you can see that allowed host, make it to star. So what happens is basically when Python Envid is trying to host our application, it's showing There are no allowed hosts given in the settings.py. So you make sure to change this and save this changes. And as I told you before, again go back to web and reload the changes which you have made before. Now you can see that we successfully deployed our application in the website feedmeup.python anywhere. So now let us check whether the buttons are working or not. Let's click on sports. Now you can see that it showed the sports news. So our Python application is working fine. And this is how you deploy a Python application. These are the steps you should need to follow. Make sure you may have an account in Python anywhere and deploy your Django. Thank you.